My best friend Sarah and I had just finished our end of year university exams and decided to get some Maccas for dinner and eat it on the edge of the river. Being the Australian summer, it was still fairly light out, so after work we decided to go back to the car as it was getting a bit cold. We make it back to the car and I immediately lock the doors out of habit, to which Sarah laughs, "Oh my god, you're so paranoid." I frown at her and she just laughs at me because she's used to my paranoia. My grandma had drilled it into my head the importance of locking your car doors. She used to work at the airport doing shift work for 40 years and had many stories of colleagues pulling up at red lights, only to have men jump out at the traffic lights early in the morning and try to open their doors. As a 19-year-old female with zero self-defense skills whatsoever, I quickly learnt to lock my doors. Now, Sarah was a very salt of the earth kind of girl. She used to walk around the neighbourhood at 2 o'clock in the morning and go walking through the bush alone without a care. So she affectionately made fun of my worst case scenario demeanour at any chance she got. I mean, realistically, I know that old man with the Zimmer frame isn't going to come in charging at my car, but I don't really want to risk it. Having loitered in the car park for a while, we have this sudden burning desire for ice cream. Having just been freed from my uni obligations, we thought why not, and headed off another 20 minutes to the only place open on a Wednesday at 11 PM. We parked across the road from a park and ran inside to get our treats, and went back to the car to eat them. So here we are, locked in my car, pigging out on some premium Ben & Jerry's. A group of about maybe 5 men walk past, but we're not too worried because the car is locked. And there are a couple of lights around, so they pass without incident. Around 11:30 we had finished and thought it was best to head back. We were 20 minutes away from Sarah's and an hour away from mine. Now, our parents didn't know where we was because the ice cream was a very spur of the moment decision. I unlock the car and skip out to throw the rubbish in a bin, only to be approached by a woman who was walking towards me wondering if she could ask me a question. Stupidly, assuming she only wanted money due to her ragged appearance, I say, "Sure, what can I do for you?" It soon dawns on me that she didn't want any money, but is informing me that a group of men just tried to beat her and put her in the boot of their car, but she managed to leg it. So here she was asking if I could drive her home. I felt sorry for her, especially considering we just saw a group of men walk past, but I wasn't about to let some lady I didn't know get into my car with my friend. I've seen the film Hitchiker, and I wasn't about to get into that situation willingly. Regardless of me not wanting to take her home, I didn't want her to be stranded if what she was telling me was true. I tell her to call the police, to which she replied that her phone is dead. She only managed to get a call out to her uncle, who said that she could come to his place and she could stay there for the night, and that it was real close. Her uncle conveniently didn't have a car to come and get her, and my phone was in the car with Sarah. "Well look," I say, "why don't you go into the store and get the clerk there to call the police for you? It's well lit up and they have surveillance cameras. Nobody would be stupid enough to try something in there." She told me that she had tried, but they had closed. I look over and sure enough, being close to midnight, the shop was shut. Having not seen these men since they walked past, I thought she might be trying to bum a free ride. "Look, I'm sorry, I don't really feel comfortable taking you. I mean, we're only 2 teenage girls, we don't know you." She just throws her bag on the floor telling me that we can search her and that she hasn't got anything on her. She just looked terrified. Sarah pokes her head out of the car window to see what's going on, and I explain the situation and say, "Well, how far away is your uncle's?" She gives us some suburb that I have never heard of. I'm a north girl, and we were deep south. This is more Sarah's territory. "Can't we just give you money for a taxi? That way you can get home." She started getting real nervous, just repeating that they'd find her. "Look, they're obviously spooked if they're not around anymore. What if we just take you downtown and you can walk from there?" But she is adamant it's too long of a walk, and that the men were hiding from us. Sarah just shrugs and says, "Sure, why not? We haven't got much else to do." I do a 180-degree spin and give Sarah my best "Are you fucking insane look?" This woman does not even hesitate to jump in the car, having unlocked the car to throw the containers in the bin. It was with dread that I realised that while I was prepared for an invasion from the inside, I was not prepared for somebody to get in when I was outside of it. They're both in the car now, and we can hear loud voices coming from the park. Dark figures start to emerge. Obviously, these were the guys from before, waiting for the situation to play out. Apparently, her getting into my car was not on either of our agendas that night. With my mind going a million miles an hour, I figure one woman is better than 5 men. So I jump in the car, lock it, and I'm out of there faster than I ever thought possible, taking curbs out along the way. Sarah is pretty chill about everything and trying to map the location, as the woman doesn't have an actual address. Great. I'm freaking out now, and my legs are shaking so badly I can barely change gears, imagining every car behind us could potentially be the group of men following. Perhaps I'm a bit dramatic, but that's why Sarah teases me so much. But soon we are driving down this long road that only has street lights at the occasional intersection. The only other lights are coming from my car. I'm not coping very well, and I start asking the woman if we can stop. Is here okay? She replied with, "Nah love, still too far. Gotta go nearer the water towers. You know the place? Yeah? No. I'm not taking you near some water tower in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, where my body is probably going to end up bloated and floating tomorrow morning." If I had known the area a little bit better, I would have gone straight to a police station. But this woman knew where she was. In my panic, I accidentally took the wrong turn and she was straight on my case, saying I was going the wrong way. So police station is out of the question, I guess. Sarah all the while was as cool as a cucumber, not thinking anything was wrong with the situation, that this was just a woman who needed a lift home. Being suspicious of all strangers and thinking on my feet, I clearly asked Sarah to text her mum and tell her where we were and that we'd be home in like 20 minutes. So that 1, somebody knew our location if something were to go wrong, and 2, so Miss Crazy in the back seat knew that someone was expecting us home within a certain time frame. Quite proud of myself, thinking that all of those endless crime shows I watched were finally paying off, I relaxed a bit, only to hear Sarah say, "Nah, Mum's probably asleep by now and she doesn't really care." Okay, so there goes that plan. So I'm back to shaking again, trying not to stall the car in my panic state. I look over to Sarah, who's just casually scrolling through Tumblr. The woman suddenly perks up and says that we are just round the corner. After the last turn to my left is a row of houses, and to my right there is just acres of bushland with, there you have it, the giant water towers. Now I slow down at the front. It's just a dead quiet neighbourhood, and I begin to feel guilty for almost leaving this woman alone to the mercy of a group of guys because I was so paranoid. Maybe Sarah is right. Maybe I do need to relax. Now, with the way my car is, if you unlock or lock the driver door, the other doors do the same. Any other door only unlocks itself. The woman gets out and she's thanking us with what I thought was a really loud voice for a quiet neighbourhood at 1 AM. Just as I'm halfway through saying no worries, everybody needs help sometimes, I hear my door being yanked and look to my right and see a man trying to open my door. Sarah screams and a man is at her left with a giant pipe trying to open her door. All doors are locked except for the back left, which is open, where the woman is standing. I just floor it, not caring if I rip the woman's arm off that was trying to keep the door open. It closes as I accelerate. I have no idea where I'm going now. I'm just driving recklessly in whatever direction gets me the furthest away. I look in the rearview mirror to see the man throw the pipe on the ground and start yelling at the woman, who did not look very scared at all. I find a way back to Sarah almost in tears, shaking. Needless to say, Sarah doesn't laugh when I lock the doors anymore. This encounter took place about a year and a half ago in my hometown. Quick background, I was 19 years old in a bad relationship with my ex. Now, the reason I mention him at all is because he, at the time, was living in a halfway house, and I had been hitching rides from the suburbs to downtown because I was fresh out of high school and was an idiot. The first few rides I got were all with very kind people. It was the middle of the winter, and I barely had to try to find rides because everybody took pity on a small girl walking in the snow. A few couples, but mostly older men, would ask if I needed a lift to the bus stop, and I figured I was a good enough judge of character to know if they were okay or if I should pass. After a few weeks of this, I was pretty confident and way too trusting of strangers, and that's when he pulled up. He was in his 30s, driving a little white sports car. He wore a striped button-up with coiffed hair and the biggest grey eyes I've ever seen on an adult man. Actually, he was very childlike all round, in gestures and the way he spoke, but it was clear how old he was, except for his weird eyes. So, he was a bit off, but I figured he was harmless enough, so I accepted his offer, but only to the bus stop, which was about 10 minutes away. As soon as I sat in his car, he locked the door. Big red flags started going off, but I tried to remain calm. Right away, he tells me I'm beautiful and that I must be a model. The thing is, I was at the time, so it wasn't that weird, and I thanked him. He tells me he's in the movie industry, and that he could maybe get me a small role out in California. The thing is, he had a Kentucky license plate, and it was generally obvious that he was lying. He asked me where I'm heading, and I told him to visit my boyfriend. He didn't like that at all. His eyes widened, and he gripped the steering wheel, and his huge grin turned force. He asked where my boyfriend lived, and I dumbly told him downtown, reminding him though that I was only needed a ride to the bus stop. He loosened up his grip and laughed. He said, what a coincidence, he was heading downtown. He could drive me right to my boyfriend's house, or he could take me out to lunch and then to his place to watch a movie. What the hell, I had barely spoken to this man, and what I actually had said had been short, but he invited me out on a date so casually when he knew I was going to see my boyfriend in the first place. I had enough, and I told him that I actually really had to pee, so could he please let me out right there so I could go and use the Steak and Shake bathroom. He retracted his forward attitude and then became really apologetic, which would have been really reasonable if he weren't apologising while begging me to still let him give me a ride downtown. He promised he wouldn't ask again. He said he just wanted to get to know me. He swore he could get me on screen and that he'd done it all before. And all the while he was apologising, it was in this strange baby-like voice, like the kind you'd use to talk to an infant. It almost sounded like he was mocking me. Nothing was making any sense. Then he put his hands on my leg, high on my leg. Whoa, I was done. I was terrified. His face was red and his eyes were nearly popping out of his head, with either anger or fear, but I honestly couldn't tell with this man. I unlocked the door and then I opened it while he was still driving, forcing him to put on the brakes. He called after me as I ran into the Steak and Shake, and I ran to the counter and asked him if I could hang out for a minute and that I was hiding from somebody. They said if I needed to call the cops, let them know. The man ended up turning round in his car and waiting in the car park for about 5 minutes. He eventually came in, at which point I ran into the bathroom and hid until a worker came in to tell me that they had kicked him out and threatened to call the cops. That was the last time I ever hitched a ride. And just a warning to you young girls, don't. No matter how brave you are, bad things can still happen, and I consider myself lucky that this guy didn't trick me. So, weird grey-eyed man in that little piece of shit car that you had, let's never meet again.